Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you all that are new, I'm Angelica with In God's Timing. And this morning, you all, I'm coming to y'all for some help. So I would like for, those who have suggestions or advice, some of the things that I'm going to talk about this morning. If you would drop it in the comments, or maybe even experiences that you've had or things that you've observed, because I've gotten to a place where I'm learning to ask questions, knowing that I don't know everything. Sometimes we need help, right? In Proverbs 11 and 14, it reads that where there is no counsel, the people fall. And in the multitude of counsel, there's safety. So a lot of us, may have missed um, proper guidance, right? Examples, role models, and, or just life, you miss stuff. So sometimes when you can bring your thoughts together and gather information where, it can help you to understand a little more better, right? Because the word speaks about, asking for wisdom, knowledge, and gaining understanding, which is being able to apply what you have learned, okay? Apply different life lessons, things that you've acquired from school, every aspect of your life. Make it make sense, because we want to be fruitful, right? We want to multiply. I desire more for myself. As a mother, I desire more for my children, my family. And sometimes, we just need to get to a place where we can have this type of dialogue or conversation, to where it's a safe place, right? But still being honest, as far as giving your honest opinion and suggestions, and knowing that we are not going to see everything from the same viewpoint, but sometimes giving somebody the opportunity to say, hey, I didn't know that. Because I've had that happen plenty of times in my life where I've had conversations with different people, from different backgrounds, different upbringings, and they only knew what they were taught or what they saw. So if we talked about a specific subject, or, had, talked about, different things, they may not be able to understand, my viewpoint because they didn't experience it or they never saw it before, right? So we'll sometimes just block people out and be like, oh, you should know better. No, everybody doesn't know, right? We're in a society, in a world, that we just assume everybody should just do the right thing. You should already know this. This is self-explanatory. It's common sense. As I say quite often, common sense is not common. Okay, a lot of times people learn from experience, right? So, it's a lot of intellectual people out there in internet land, right? So I need some help. Okay, so I some things that I'm just trying to gain a better understanding of, for myself, and then somebody else. You have times where somebody else may ask a question, and somebody else was like, I'm thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing, or they wanted to ask the question, but they were scared, or they, didn't feel comfortable. Many of us have been in school in times where, or in different meetings or groups where you don't feel comfortable sharing or talking or asking certain questions because you feel like it's a stupid question or it doesn't make sense. But they say no question asked. That's the one that will be considered, I won't say stupid, but that would be the one that's stupid because you didn't ask it. Okay, a lot of children are very inquisitive. Most of us growing up, we asked a lot of questions. Our parents used to get frustrated and upset, tell you, be quiet, even me sometimes to my own children. Stop asking all these questions. But that's how you learn. So even myself, I have found, where I got tired of explaining myself. But then the Lord had to deal with me and check me like, you ask questions too. There's things that you don't know that you need to ask. So don't get upset when people ask questions, because it's for a reason. It's for clarity. And my goal is, and I'm in hope of, which I really believe it will be, by the end of this video, I will have some clarity, right? And some things that I've been contemplating, or some things that I've been thinking about, or, just trying to make sense of. Is it just me? Because I've had moments, in my healing journey, since I've been discussing, in the process of healing and, things like that, that some things just didn't make sense. Where I would, have certain experiences or see certain things whether it be my family or just in general. And it would be like it don't make sense. But people would give a broke down, poetic justice explanation of why this is supposed to make sense. But then I would be scratching my head like, that don't add up. It doesn't add up. So let's jump right on into it. So when I was in high school and college, I took a lot of science classes, right? So when we were in class, we did a lot of experiments and observations and different things as far as manipulating different, like science projects or whatever, to find out what would cause a change, what didn't cause a change, just experimenting. So we know, in school, there's the hypothesis. And I remember being taught, it stuck with me like glue. It's an educated guess, right? So when I looked up the definition, it's actually a testable explanation. So that means I should be able to test everything, okay? To be able to figure out, how did we get here? How did this happen? What things did I manipulate, or what did I add or take away for this outcome to come to place, right? So really what it is a logical conclusion. Let's help it make sense, right? So whatever it is that you're doing in life, and this is for me too, it needs to make sense, because it's a lot of things right now that just don't make sense, that we're seeing, that we're hearing. And a lot of this stuff, sometimes like with social media and stuff, it's like a lot of noise, chaos, and confusion. And I know that God is not the author of confusion. So like when I said that it's not always easy for everyone to be able to see something from somebody else's perspective or lens. But for me, with growth, with time, compassion, experience, honestly, it caused me to be more empathetic, right? It caused me to look at things a little differently, not only for myself, but for people around me, or things that I would observe and see. A great teacher, awesome teacher, and I tell y'all, God is the realest teacher you'll ever have, will allow you or teach you to gather information to come to the conclusion or the answer, right? Basically help pull it out of you. So, when you have teachers that are in school, they may not give you the answer right away, right? But really they have. They've taught you everything you needed to know, but they're trying to make you think. Use your thinking cap to come up with the correct answer. Help you to understand what it is that you just learned. So that means gathering all notes that you took, all teachings, pop quizzes, tests, assignments. I want you to put all that knowledge together and tell me, how did you get this answer for your test? Okay? Follow me. Stay with me. So with gathering information, and like I said, a lot of things weren't making sense. And, we have possibilities, and, we can observe different situations and circumstances and different people groups, right? Even the outcomes that play a part in our lives are different things. So a hypothetical analysis is suggested ideas or theories. So we got a lot of people that talk about, different theories, and, that they say some things are factual, testing and trying. You got psychology, where they do a lot of, testing and trying, and, trying to figure out the mind and how it works and how this disease has come about, or, why people do the things that they do. Okay. So with just across the board, okay, in our everyday lives, right? When I look around and I pay attention to all the things that are taking place, things that has happened, things that have happened in my own personal life, things that I see, or when I talk with people that they share, it'll end up being a lot of similarities and some differences. So I'm like, okay, why is it some of the things that we experience, or choices we make, why do we do it? Because, everybody doesn't respond the same. Everybody isn't affected the same, right? We've been taught, and I've always remember, growing up in just reality, that, do the right thing, work hard, pay attention, focus, graduate high school, just this cookie cutter mentality of how to have a successful and prosperous life. And as I said, some things still didn't make sense because I didn't see that happen for everybody, right? But then I began to understand that, the choices that you make and, things that you experience, they do affect how you function, how you think, how you move, how you react, how you live, right? So a big part of all of our mental mindset and even our capacity, or even why we do what we do, some of the basic things that factor into that are what? Our environment, our upbringing, okay? Things that we're taught, things that we watch, things that we see, um, things that we are exposed to, right? So you can have a family, let's say a family of 5, a mother and a father, right? Brothers and sisters or whatever. It is a possibility, even though with all those siblings growing up in the same home, that they're not going to have the same outcomes in life, right? Even though their parents may have taught them the same, they lived all in the same house, their experiences are going to be different by the individual, correct? So we see some cases where, when you begin to alter or manipulate certain things, because we know that the home is the foundation of our upbringing, right? So when you begin to add or take away things from the basic blueprint, as far as the mother, the father, and the children, when you begin to take in consideration trauma, when you begin to take into consideration what they learned from their parents, what they experienced, different things that they were exposed to, that will affect how they raise their children, right? It's a possibility that they can still teach their children right from wrong, do the best that they can because they want what's best for their children, even though that they may not have received what they needed, even though they may be deficient, maybe from getting the proper love and affection from their parents, or financial stability, or it's a long list of things, right? But they want to give more to their children. So then when you add in, like I said, you got the internet and you got people and family and friends, all these different things play a factor in how you move. So I talk to people about how I strive to keep God in everything I do, because as I mentioned, I've made some mistakes in my life, and I missed a lot of things, okay? Unfortunately, some by default and some by my own experiences. So even when I look at, like I said, the possibilities of when you can alter or manipulate a situation, it plays a part. So when we become deprived of basic necessities, right? Let's say, like I said, maybe food, shelter, clothing, love, affection, because who doesn't want to be loved? Who doesn't want to be treated right? Who doesn't want, to make sure you got food to eat? Who doesn't, let's be logical, realistic now. Who doesn't want better for themselves or their children? But then when you have obstacles that are in place, right? Little stumbling blocks, that this is a part where I'm saying some stuff don't make sense. Where you're doing what you were told, do the right thing. Raise your kids the best that you can. I'm going to give you this blueprint, but then you still have obstacles. So when I look at different people groups and I look at different races and cultures, because, that's a lot of the conversation right now, where it's the bickering back and forth and people trying to analyze why people are doing the things that they are doing, why we're in such a place of anxiety and depression and stress, and people say mental illness, and you know, fatherless homes, or the rich, the poor, all these different things. We're just trying to get a grasp, a logical understanding, religion, okay? Grasp all these different things to help it make sense. What makes people do the things that they do? We know the mind is powerful. It's a terrible thing to waste also, but it's powerful. And how it receives information, how we absorb, so many different things that affect our psyche, how we think, how we function, right? Because how we think, the thoughts that we have, it affects our actions, it affects our speech, it affects every aspect of your life, right? Every aspect. So as I said, let me stay focused, let me stay on point. So I was trying to get to a point, like I said, make it make sense. Because we have situations where we come from different backgrounds, different cultures, and we say that we hear they say, people will say that everybody's equal. You all have a fair chance at life. You have a fair opportunity to live your best life, to be prosperous and fruitful. But then the things that I see, it doesn't add up to what people are saying. So I question and wonder, why is it so much poverty? Why is it so many broken homes? Why is it that you have so many, women that, are seeking love and affection, and men too, this uprising and transformers and confusion and, rebellion and disrespect to parents and, stereotypical things that you see in different cultures and races is, that's obvious. The black on black crime and the, like I said, the broken homes and the, the stereotypical things where we tear each other down, and then we have other races that feel one way and these people see this way. But then, I'm like, help make it make sense. So even as I'm talking about, because it's so broad, the different things that we're experiencing, that we're seeing, the time frame that we're in. What comes to mind is when nation rises against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Because even with scripture, getting an understanding of what the word is speaking and what it is saying. And that also depends on the person, right? Because we don't all receive the same, right? We don't all comprehend the same. And then that may be too because of certain ideologies or theories that were placed in your mind, or teachings will help contribute to how you comprehend. So many people are unable to comprehend the times that we're in, the signs of the times, and make excuses and justify, everything. But everything does have an explanation, and it is testable. So when you strip people of basic necessities and basic core values, they become deficient. When we begin to fester on our lust and, our desires and what we want, we begin to see people will step all over you, or go above and beyond to make sure they get to where they want to be. All these different logical conclusions or suggested ideas and theories. But as I mentioned, when we test these things, when we look at throughout history and we look at then and now, and how each generation things have accelerated, how much more confusion it is, debating and brokenness and damage, and the acceleration of sin. And unconsciously, I believe a lot of people don't understand how we have helped the acceleration process of what we see now. Because many be like, why are we going through this in our world, right? Why are we experiencing this in our families? Why is it that some people have it better than others? I'm big on accountability. So before I could even share certain things or acknowledge and address certain issues or concerns that I had, and things that didn't make sense. Because like I said, I got to a point where I began asking God for help because stuff just wasn't making sense, right? I would ask my parents questions or people around me, like, do you see this too? Like, is it just me or am I tripping? Is some things harder for some of us when you're trying to do the right thing? When you make a mistake, for some people, are the consequences a little greater? And, is it something that I'm missing? Make you think, right? Those are the type of questions that you want. A good teacher makes you think. Gather the information, because that's what God has been doing, allowing us to gather information. So we have a lot of intellectual people, knowledgeable people that have all this wisdom and can dissect and break down all these different scenarios and situations and prophecy and what we see and, all these different things. But because there's so much noise and so much chaos and so many distractions on top of, because we live in a selfish world with a selfish generation, most people, as I said, can only see things from their point of view and not get into the underlining part is when your foundation, when the baseline, the underlining thing of your life or things of your life, the basics is affected, it affects everything. It affects everything. I agree that it is foundational to have a mother and a father, right? Healthy relationships. But even with prophecy, and even when the Bible speaks about if your mother and father forsake you, that he's still there. That regardless of, what we're stripped of or what we were lacking or deficient of, he fills that void of those missing ingredients, right? Of those missing things that may keep you from fulfilling purpose. We get to a place sometimes where when you turn down all the noise, when we begin to deal with things for exactly what it is, then we, begin to come to a solution. So do we really want solution, or do many just want comfort? Do many want the truth and want to face the music in reality, or do you want comfort? Because we see all these different things throughout history with the injustice and the things that have happened from different nations and cultures. And, they say, don't blame the white man, and, take responsibility of yourself, and don't blame this person. Don't blame your parents, take responsibility of yourself. And all of that is true. Whereas each of us collectively, Black, white, Puerto Rican, Asian, Jamaican, everybody has a place where you have to take accountability, right? For even though you may have missed it and didn't have, maybe certain guidance or, examples or, a roadmap, you still have to take accountability for yourself, for your actions, for your choices. But sometimes we fail to realize that there are strategic things that contribute to people's outcomes. But thank God for his grace and his mercy that even though we may have been missing the basic ingredients, even though we may have been missing foundational things that we needed in school, or foundational values in family, because some of us come from broken homes and struggle and pain, and some come from lack of understanding and comprehension, or thinking, if I get this, then I have it all. For people, so many, have a lustful mindset, the lust of the eyes, right? What we see, we want it so bad. We desire, we see this picture painted, come on, Satan, that if you do all of these things, that you can have everything that you want, everything that your heart desires. whether it be a woman, a man, money, power, control, clothes. You can have everything that you desire, but it's conditional. You have to do as I say, because a lot of times I think people don't even realize you let the devil use you. Don't let the devil use you. Oh, so as I said, just make it make sense. But honestly, it's the clarification that I've even getting as I'm wrapping up this video is because so much has been hidden, because we have missed so much. And as I mentioned, each generation, it has gotten worse. So our ability to see, our ability to comprehend or understand that certain things that we're doing, certain things that we're touching, that it's not only affecting ourselves, it's affecting our families, infecting each other, infecting a generation. Because as long as we're going through the motions, and a lot of times if you're not affected directly or you're not inconvenienced, you won't really understand what somebody else is saying or what they're going through, right? Or what they've been through. Because we've swept so much under the rug. Where basically everything that has happened from all different cultures, races, and everything is stemmed from at home, right? It stemmed from generational stuff. So even though we try to run from the past, the very thing that many are trying to run from is catching up to you, if it hasn't already. So then you're trying to make it make sense. How am I here? Why am I going through this? I tried to dot all my I's and cross all my T's. I went by the playbook. And something still isn't making sense. My kids are going through, I end up divorced, or, I got this situation going on. And some people, even myself, I've had those experiences where I was naive, I was ignorant, I was foolish, okay? Didn't know no better. I tell people, Satan plays on your ignorance, okay? He doesn't care if you don't want to see or acknowledge that, yes, these little devices and these strategic things and people that I even use help to play a part in your destruction, which is supposed to be your destruction. And some it has been. How we making it make sense where we see, I heard a guy say yesterday morning on YouTube how black people are last in everything. But one of the things that he mentioned, he said we're we're number one in consumers, that we spend the most money. But we are last in having business, last financially in generational wealth. We're last in, a lot of things. And, I'm just going to even add in myself. You see this uprise in the black communities with the dealing with mental, right? We seeing it more clearly about how much it is the homes are affected when the father isn't there. We see how much has been affected with the women and their thinking. And some things, like I said, similarities and differences, where I've met people and talked to people that didn't look like me, that experienced similar things, as far as maybe a broken home, or why they view me the way they do is because of their teaching and their upbringing, or why I may have been treated certain ways, or even why I may have treated somebody differently is because of, the facade, the picture that was painted is why some of us did the things that we did. So how strategic the enemy is to put so many different things in place to have us many deaf, dumb, and blind. So you will not be aware, prepared, even capable to withstand in these end times. How many of us where, I used to just think it was black people. Like, dang, is it just me? Is it just us? Like, why we can't get right? Like, why is it so much dysfunction? Why we so got so much bickering and fighting? Like, these are things I talk to God about. Like, this don't make sense. Okay, like, we got this own underlying hate towards each other where things just didn't make sense. Where everybody would so many would, let me say it like this: we are the number one commodity, right? We are, you might as well say, the greatest market. People can take it how you want to take it. Because I told you I'll be trying to make it make sense. Because I got daughters that I'm raising, right? I myself want more, so I need to understand, Like I said, the word says get, and all you're getting, get understanding. I need clarity, right? Make it make sense. So when I look, and you just look around the world, because like I said, observation, okay? Gathering information, logical conclusions. When I look around, when I thought certain things was just me in my community or my people, where, dysfunctional folk, or even myself, I learned to function in dysfunction, which is toxic, right? Just trying to live, going through the motions. So when I say like we're the biggest market, we help make everybody rich across the world. And people say that's not New Age slavery. People can say that, we haven't been dealt with wisely, but when you look around, we are the face of almost everything. A lot of different things, especially negative stuff, right? When you cut on your TV, who's the most common ones that you see that they show that committed a crime, or, that's ghetto and, got the bonnets and, just making us look, trying to make us look, mocking us, basically. Which a lot of stuff has truth to it, right? Taking accountability. So when you look at like a totem pole, right, and you have the superior people, and they have us at the bottom as inferior, and the other minorities and races, and there's certain ones that are right at the top that rule the world, that rule a lot of different things, the principalities and things of this world. Because, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but wickedness, different things in high places. Come on, let's make it make sense. So if I want to manipulate something, come on, I say folk like science, and I want to alter something, I have to change some things. I have to begin to manipulate, control, test it, trial and error, right? So as we've seen each generation, things have gotten worse. Even when we, as a people have tried to come together and stand up and breathe, it's like a tearing us back down. This is why I say it. The answer, Jesus. Okay, we can't do nothing without him. We've put God on the back burner so long. We've heard so many bickering about religion and ideologies, and make it make sense. Let's get back to the basics. What you do, how you live, you reap what you sow, right? Consequences for your actions. So even though, yes, my people got that block, they're a little off, we make mistakes, some of them don't get it. They missed it. I myself have missed it. But has still been obstacles that we even hear people talk about, and we're beginning to learn that was hidden, that I didn't even know about certain things because I wasn't taught. It wasn't talked about, and my parents maybe even didn't know themselves about certain things, as far as the separating us from other people, and our living arrangements and our environments, and our upbringing, and just the separation that we've seen throughout history as far as the Black community. Yes, everyone goes through things. We all struggle. We all have issues. We all have deficits. We all have areas that we need to work on. But the part that doesn't make sense to me, how we see there are such strategic things that are fired at Black people. Now, I'm not saying this for no woe is me pity type thing. I'm talking realistic and facts. So when you think about when I say that, they say we all are equal and, justice for all and, not understanding why you have a generation now that's wilding out and, snapping and, we help contribute to us, but we had a helping hand in the matter. Then you have other cultures and races that had a helping hand in the matter, that helped destroy their families, that helped destroy their cultures. So when I look at how influential the Black community is and, how much of an impact, we make on the world, even in our sin and even in our mess. Everything always goes back to people picking at or messing with the Black folk. Now, just as anybody else, just like other races and cultures, our families mess up. We got ones that's doing good, some that's not. You got, different pros and cons in every race and every culture. But it doesn't make sense why we're still the lowest of the low. Even like I said, when the gentleman mentioned yesterday. Now you see this arising, and if I see it, I know other people see it too, where many Black people are beginning to wake up, wanting businesses and wanting more for their families, desiring to be married and desiring to heal and grow and mature, and it's many other people too, right? It's not just us, but as a people, because we can't even get that sometimes. People get offended when we try to come together collectively, So many things have been put into place to keep us apart. And now we see the gathering that's taking place. So even with the compassionate heart, when I meet other people that don't look like me, or, we can have an adult conversation and understand that sometimes it was their upbringing to why they may have treated me the way they did, or, or why they view things as far as Black people or minorities or other people, because they were taught that. So everything, yes, is taught and learned. But when you know better, you do better. So we've sit back from generation to generation, and because of people's comfort, complacency, convenience, regardless of who has suffered, who hurts, who missed it, because if we're equal, you should want the opportunity to help your brothers and sisters or help somebody that doesn't look like you. But then at the same time, some folk are so dysfunctional and so messed up and damaged, and they out here reckless. You have parents that are confused that, why their children are the way that they are, but it was some possibilities that play into these situations, right? Just because you got it together and, you dealt with stuff or whatever, not even dealt with stuff, you may be doing good for yourself, taking it back to when you don't deal with certain issues, when we don't deal with our sin, when we don't deal with those underlying conversations, it revisits, it comes back. So then when you have people that are confused to, why am I going through this? Or why am I experiencing that? Where you'll have, let me give you a broader example, where you'll have a situation where you'll have, and I've heard somebody say this before, well, my father wasn't in my life and didn't take care of me or wasn't there for me. So that would justify why the next father isn't in his child's life. or why the choices he made, or why he can justify his or give reasoning to why he lived the way he did or didn't want to be a part of his children's lives, right? But then that next son, come on, he may be the one that wants better for his children, right? He chose to be in his children's lives. He took that and ran with it from the perspective of, even though my daddy's daddy wasn't in his life and he did the same thing his daddy did, come on, generational, I choose to do different, right? Doesn't mean that that third son wouldn't be hit with obstacles or life experiences that passed down from his father and his father's father. Because how can you address an issue or a concern or a situation if you don't even know it's a problem? If you're not even aware this has contributed to that generation. So if you can't see yourself, how do you expect somebody else, your children, to see themselves? I think sometimes we don't realize how much this can impact why we see what we're seeing as far as the impact on each generation. Same thing with mothers, or just even situations where people have had abusive relationships, right? It may skip this person. I'm an example of that, where I have myself